The art director's debrief number 2, a tragic story or a perfect lie. Hello, and welcome back to the art director's debrief. In our first analysis, we explored the art and the danger of the first impression, how a single glance or careless word could paint a portrait in the mind that is nearly impossible to erase. Today, we venture into a deeper, more torturous territory. We move from the world of observation to the world of narration. If the first act of Pride and Prejudice was about judging characters based on what we see, this second act, covering chapters 12 through 17, is about the seductive and terrifying power of a well-told story. Jane Austen, with her characteristic genius, introduces two new characters who are not just actors in the play, but are master storytellers, each wielding narrative as their primary tool for social survival and advancement. The question we will explore today is a timeless one. In the absence of proof, what do we choose to believe? The cold, hard evidence of our own negative experiences, or the warm, compelling story that confirms them? This is the dilemma that will define Elizabeth Bennet's journey, and it is a battle between a pride we can see and a charm we cannot see beyond. Our first new narrator is Mr. Collins. At first glance, he appears to be a simple figure of comedy, a caricature of pomposity. But from an analytical perspective, he is a fascinating case study in borrowed narrative. Mr. Collins does not possess a story of his own. His entire identity, his every opinion, his every compliment is a second-hand narrative borrowed directly from his revered patroness, the great Lady Catherine de Bourgh. Listen to his language. He does not simply recommend a course of action, he relates what Lady Catherine would advise. He does not admire a room, he assesses it based on how it compares to the splendors of Rosings Park. He is a man walking through life with a script written by someone else, and his performance is both ludicrous and tragic. His narrative is one of sycophancy, a story of self-worth derived entirely from proximity to power. He believes his connection to Lady Catherine elevates him, gives him status and authority. The comedy arises from the complete disconnect between the grand narrative he tells about himself and the absurd reality of his presence. He is, in essence, a walking, talking cautionary tale about the hollowness of an identity built on another's greatness. His arrival at Longbourn is not just a plot device to introduce a suitor. It is Austen's brilliant satire on a society obsessed with patronage. He is the first storyteller, and his story is a transparently foolish one. But the second is far more skillful and far more dangerous. Enter Mr. George Wickham. If Mr. Collins is an amateur actor reading from a borrowed script, Mr. Wickham is a virtuoso performer, a master of his craft. He arrives in Meryton not just as a handsome officer, but as a perfectly constructed tragic hero. His primary tool is not his sword, but his story. Let us analyze his performance with the critical eye of an art director. His appearance is his first victory. Handsome, charming, with an easy, open manner that stands in stark contrast to Darcy's reserved coldness. He doesn't force his story upon anyone. He waits. He allows the mysterious, public animosity between him and Darcy at their chance meeting to create an atmosphere of intense curiosity. He creates a vacuum, and he knows the town, and especially Elizabeth, will beg him to fill it. And when he does, his narrative is a masterpiece of manipulation. It contains all the elements of a perfect, irresistible tragedy. First, the noble benefactor, the late Mr. Darcy, a saintly father figure who loved Wickham as a son. This establishes Wickham's good standing and creates a foundation of sympathy. Second, the promised reward, a comfortable living as a clergyman, a symbol of a respectable, secure future that was rightfully his. third, the cruel villain, the young Mr. Darcy, who, driven by jealousy and a barbarous nature, defied his own father's dying wish and cast the virtuous Wickham out into the world, penniless and heartbroken. This story is not just a lie, it is a work of art. It is designed with surgical precision to appeal to every one of Elizabeth Bennet's existing biases. She already believes Darcy to be proud and unjust. Wickham's story provides the why. It gives her a concrete reason, a dark history to justify her prejudice. It transforms her personal dislike into a righteous crusade on behalf of a wronged man. Her acceptance of his story is immediate and absolute. Why? Because we are all, as humans, predisposed to believe narratives that confirm what we already suspect. It is the psychological phenomenon of confirmation bias, rendered perfectly in literary form. It is easy for us, as readers with a bird's eye view, to question Elizabeth's intelligence in this moment. How could she, so sharp and perceptive, be so completely fooled? But Austen is showing us something profound about the nature of perception. Elizabeth's judgment is clouded not by foolishness, but by her own intelligence. She prides herself on her ability to see through social artifice. Yet, Wickham's performance is so masterful because it doesn't feel like a performance at all. He presents his story with a feigned reluctance, a manly candor, and just the right amount of sorrow. He even performs a calculated act of generosity by saying he would never publicly expose Darcy, thereby making himself appear noble while doing exactly that in a private conversation. Furthermore, let's consider the visual contrast. Darcy is dark, silent, and wealthy, all attributes that are easily conflated with villainy in a romantic narrative. Wickham is charming, articulate, and financially disadvantaged, the classic underdog hero. Elizabeth, a woman who feels herself to be intellectually superior but socially and financially constrained, naturally identifies with the underdog. Believing Wickham is an act of solidarity as much as it is an act of judgment. The visual art from this period often played with these archetypes. The brooding, Byronic hero, often understood, was a popular figure. Wickham cleverly co-opts the narrative of a romantic hero, casting himself in the leading role and Darcy the part of the cold-hearted antagonist. Elizabeth, an avid reader and an intelligent woman, readily accepts this casting because it fits perfectly within the narrative frameworks she already understands. And so, as we leave these chapters, the emotional landscape has been redrawn. The conflict is no longer a simple two-person dynamic between Elizabeth's prejudice and Darcy's pride. A third, powerful element has been introduced, a masterfully woven lie. This lie will now act as a poison, infecting every future interaction. It will fuel Elizabeth's confidence in her own judgment, making her even more defiant. It will hang in the air at the upcoming Netherfield ball, an unspoken accusation waiting for a moment to explode. The central question I leave you with is this: what is more difficult to overcome? A prejudice born from your own direct experience, or a prejudice solidified by a story that you desperately want to believe is true? Wickham has given Elizabeth's prejudice a name, a face, and a history. He has transformed it from a feeling into a conviction. And a conviction, as we know, is the most difficult thing in the world to change. Thank you for joining me in the archive. I invite you to share your own analysis in the comments. Were you, on your first reading, also charmed by Mr. Wickham? Let the discussion begin.